everybody. Welcome to the podcast. How are you two doing?
I'm good.
Pretty copacetic.
Copacetic. Wow. Bringing out the AP Lit words today, man.
Big brain.
Yeah, bro. No smooth brain. All right, let's go ahead and introduce yourselves. Isaiah, you can go first.
Yeah, my name is Isaiah Colbert. I'm a staff reporter over at the Chronicle. I write things and they occasionally get put on the internet.
Beautiful.
I'm Kaylee Slack. I'm a photojournalist for the Chronicle. I take pictures and occasionally they get put online.
Wow, look at that. I would say mostly they get put online. Typically.
About like 3 out of every 50.
Yeah, wow. That's kind of sad, bro. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of happy I'm not a PJ anymore. Well, we have the young and the old here. Isaiah is a seasoned Chronicle reporter, and Kaylee is fresh meat.
Yep.
We're going to tear
First
you.
semester.
We're just going to bake you on this episode of the podcast.
It's horrible. I'm a vegetarian.
Wow. Quite sad. I do want to do one thing really quickly before we sort of get into what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about everything film related today. But before, for the people that are watching this on YouTube, Isaiah did something wonderful for me the other day.
Okay, cool.
I most definitely am going to do it. I have to find where I put this thing. Let me think. Where is this? I downloaded it. Oh no, I can't find it right now. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and start talking, and then that'll make a special appearance throughout the episode.
Gotcha.
Because that's instant laughter, bro. So we have a joke on demand. Yeah, Kaylee, you have no idea what this is.
No,
Isaiah and I are on the same wavelength, but nobody else. So while we start to talk about this, I'll see if I can bring this thing up. But so today we're talking about everything movies. Everything movie related. There's been a lot of stuff happening recently, obviously, with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, and there's been some other controversies recently. One that has stuck out to me is this ongoing situation between Bella Thorne and what she's done with the website OnlyFans. I sent you guys an article to read about this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to share my screen really quickly just so people watching can sort of take a look at this. But basically, the way that the situation played out is that Bella Thorne, who has been a little promiscuous recently. I think she directed some pornographic film recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been making her way sort of into the sex work industry. She made an OnlyFans account and very, very quickly amassed like $2 million in profit, which essentially like gouged the market for, not younger, but newer, I should say, people that are newer to the platform didn't have as established, as an identity as obviously Bella Thorne did. And so there's been a monumental amount of controversy recently surrounding this. There's been a lot of stuff talking about OnlyFans has had to adapt their platform because of this. So now people only get paid monthly instead of getting paid weekly. So there's an issue for people, sex workers that rely on this type of work to actually, get paid on time if they have kids or something like that. And then after this, Bella Thorne's defense was that she was doing this under the guise of preparing for a role in a new Sean Baker film. And Sean Baker is kind of known. A lot of his film, I don't know if you guys have seen like Tangerine. That was one of the first ones he did, which was about like the life of a sex worker, like a trans sex worker. And so he's kind of known in that community. And he came out right after all of this happened, and he essentially denounced what she said. I could bring the tweet up right here. Saying straight up that he's not attached to any film deal at all with Bella Thorne. He doesn't advocate or approve of what she's doing. And he pretty much just denounced her entire actions. And I thought this was so interesting because I've been reading a little bit about Bella Thorne recently, just because she's kind of doing a lot, or doing the most. And it brought up the question for me, how much, I just don't know. Is that cool? Is that not cool? What responsibilities do actors have outside of the film they're making, to the communities that they're portraying or the communities that they're trying to represent? Have you guys ever thought about something like that before?
I think the biggest problem is that they do have a responsibility to the community, and the main responsibility you have is not to negatively impact or hurt that community. And that's essentially what she did. She put these photos up under the guise that they would be nude photos, and they weren't. So
right.
She lied about
she
that.
said she was going to sell nudes, and then they were just like lingerie photos.
Yeah. And then she said that she's not going to negatively impact the sex workers. She's going to donate the money and everything.
Right.
And I think a better way to have gone about that, I mean, obviously I don't know what she did besides this, would be to talk to actual sex workers and hear about their experiences, and really learn from them, as opposed to just trying to insert yourself into a community that's not necessarily yours.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Isaiah, do you have anything sort of
Yeah,
about
like
this?
any information that I've ever gotten from Bella Thorne has never been the like information that I've
Yeah.
like pursued myself
Yeah, it's
to
kind of
get. Yeah, a lot of the things I've been seeing on it, because I saw that she like did like a bit of like a damage control tweet to be like, hey, I'm trying to work this out, talking to OnlyFans,
Yeah,
let
she
like
had like a
community
thread on
members.
Twitter.
Yeah, I'm like some of the responses I saw was like it must be nice to like get like responses from like to talk
Mm-hmm.
to like corporate OnlyFans. Like
What's
there we
backwards,
go.
Isaiah? It's backwards. Is it backwards for
No,
you?
no, it's good. It's good.
It's good? It's
Yeah,
backwards
it's
on
good.
my screen. Sorry to interrupt.
Uh,
Isaiah tweeted me yesterday and he said I just happened to find the Zoom background for Jonah because I'm
yeah, no,
five
like
foot royalty, short king.
my sleep
Nice.
paralysis demon was just like, hey, we have this clean like genius background. Let's just put this
I still
together.
don't know how to set backgrounds on Zoom. I think my computer is too old. It's
Dude,
kind
you
of
gotta get with
sad.
the program.
I know.
Yeah, seriously, it's kind of rough. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, I'm pointing and laughing at you.
I can't tell because it's through a computer screen.
Don't worry. You know what? Dang, Kaylee, you're just coming at me today, man. You're coming out like guns blazing on this episode of the podcast.
But I guess to get back on track,
Yeah.
but like a lot of the stuff that I was saying was just like, yeah, it must be nice to like sort of communicate with like corporate
Mm-hmm.
part of OnlyFans, like month one of being on the program. So
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff that like a lot of stuff with that, like I think like there's like this weird like I guess like idealization about like going method for like a role, and like
Right.
I feel like that's what she was trying to go for, to be like, well, if I'm going to immerse myself in a
Right.
role or whatever, I'll like do it hands on. And like a lot of that time like with that, like I feel like it's just like whatever your thought of like your preconceived notion of like this is what the culture must be.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
like
what frustrates
yeah.
me is she used it under the guise of going method and everything, but then she didn't actually follow through because her photos weren't nude, they were represented as that they would be. And she just kind of inserted herself into this situation. And I think she kind of went into it thinking that sex work would be easy and that would be just a thing she could do in her free time,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's a livelihood for so many people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. It made me really upset when she was getting a response back from OnlyFans and everything, because it's like rich people will listen to rich people and rich people will listen to famous people, but
Yeah.
the people who are actually putting in the work are being ignored.
Yeah. And so that's actually interesting. I'm in the Kaylee, I know you're in the film program as well at Columbia,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm a directing focus in the area. And so in one of the first directing classes you take, the first one on that track, one of the like a conversation that we had is called acting and directing workshop. Basically they make the directing majors act, so like they have an understanding of sort of like how that
That would be so stressful.
it is stressful, dude. Luckily I was a theater, well, I wouldn't say luckily I was a theater kid in high school, but luckily I had some experience.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that we talked about in that class very early on was, I was like, Lisa, my professor, Lisa, what do you think about method acting? And she was just like, it's complete bullshit, all of it. She absolutely hated the
Mm-hmm.
idea of what today we call method acting, because that's not necessarily what method acting actually was. Method came from, if I believe, it was like this old Russian instructor named Stanislavski, and it wasn't at all what we think of today's method, where it's like go out and actually do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she was so angry about it because method, like the phrase method acting and saying you're method acting, is such like a weak way of just trying to get all the blame off you, right? And saying, oh well, it's full of it's for the role. So it doesn't actually matter, and I'm not guilty. So whenever I hear people talk about, I did this terrible thing because of method acting, I just roll my eyes. It's so frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that actually is kind of a good segue into the question that I brought in,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about the method acting mostly that Jared Leto and Heath Ledger did for their individual respective Joker roles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, how much is too much and where do we draw the line on what is okay when you're method acting and what is not.
Right.
But I was thinking, because when Heath Ledger prepared for his Joker role, he isolated himself in a hotel room for a month and, had 2 hours of sleep each night, which I feel would possibly negatively impact your health. But at least that
Mm-hmm.
was on his own.
Right.
He wasn't terrorizing other people. I know there was a lot of controversy from Jared Leto. And I was reading about what he did to prepare for a role. And he sent a live rat to Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And he sent bullets.
This won't be the last time we talk about Jared Leto
right?
today. So.
Ooh,
He
I
sent
like that.
bullets. He sent
Oh my
bullets to
God.
Will Smith and Viola Davis.
That's nice.
He gave the cast a dead pig, so he got a huge hog, and he didn't do any of this himself. He had like
He's got a
henchmen.
huge hog.
Yeah, he got a huge hog, and they were all eating, and he just plopped it down on the table.
He just walked up and dropped it.
Yeah. He said he made video messages for the people he slept in a prison. He only responded to Mr. J. He was isolated from the cast.
He only responded to Mr. J.
Yeah, so you
That's
had to call
so
him Mr.
cringe,
J.
bro.
That's
right?
like a Tinder profile, like first line. Like,
right?
That's
It's such
so
a power
cringe,
trip.
dude. Ew.
He sent Playboy magazines to the person who played Killer Croc, and he sent condoms to his co-stars.
Oh, dope. Cool,
what
we
was
like
his
that.
like vetting process for like sending out gifts? Like, oh,
Yeah,
well, this
how'd he
person
pick,
has
right?
to get this.
Yeah,
Like,
that,
I
right?
have
Point,
to get
Isaiah.
this
I know
person
he
this.
sent Will Smith bullets because he played
Deadshot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But what about
And
the condoms? Where's
I
the
don't-
condoms come from? And he was selecting.
He was just being a bro that
It's
time.
Jared
Yeah,
Leto.
you know what? He was just watching out for their safety, man. Straight up.
Yeah, but
He was
Rose
looking out for 'em.
McGowan made a really interesting comment.
Who did she play? Rose McGowan?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Let's look it up. Here, I'll look it up. This was Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the new Suicide Squad, the old
Yeah,
Suicide
the
Squad.
old new Suicide
it's not
Squad.
the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
new
yeah.
one?
Okay.
They're working on a new one.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a new one. All right. What did she say?
So, she said that it was a huge red flag and absolutely not okay that he was doing this.
Yeah,
And she
right.
said, in what other industry would this be sanctioned? It's not something to be celebrated. It's something to sue over.
Yeah.
You know, so I think
Yeah.
doing all these actions under the guise that, oh, I'm method acting, you know, you're actually endangering other people and
Just straight
you're
up.
psychologically torturing other people. And it's just not okay to do that under, oh, it's just method acting. It's the Joker. But the Joker isn't real. Jared Leto is. And he's the one that's doing those
Yeah.
things.
See,
Us
yeah.
civilians would call that harassment.
Exactly. I'm just thinking, like, if you're a teacher and you're sending like dead hogs to the other teachers, like, go
That
to
ain't
jail.
cool. Yeah, so I'm so happy we're talking all this smack about Jared Leto because he's one of maybe two people in life that I hate. I hate Jared Leto so freaking much. I hate everything about him. I hate the way he looks.
It's like I
hate
hate
the
his band.
I hate his band. I
30
hate
seconds
his
to
band.
Mars.
I hate the way he speaks. All right, Jared Leto single-handedly has decreased my quality of life over these past 20 years.
In one of my
100%
classes, we had to watch a documentary about Jared Leto.
Stop it, dude.
We watched a
Was
Jared
it the
Leto
cult
documentary
one?
in class.
Was it about his cult?
It was about
Is it cult?
30 Seconds
Yeah,
to
he has a
Mars.
cult.
What do you mean he's got a cult, bro?
Yeah,
That
like I
doesn't
think he
surprise
like
me.
admitted
Still, dude.
himself, like been like, yeah, I have a cult. Like during like when COVID stuff was like starting to ramp up, he's like, oh yeah, I've just been chilling on my island. Like, oh,
He did this during COVID. He
Mhm.
revealed the cult.
Yeah,
I hate
it's
this
like
guy
casual
so much.
cults.
I hate this guy so much. He's the fakest actor ever. And Kaylee, what you just said is so important about how the role is fake, but Jared Leto is real, and the effect that you have because of that is real. That's like something.
Exactly.
And that's something when I'm, working on my own films that I always struggle with this, right? Because this is something I talk a lot about with a couple other different people in the area. It's like, the role of a filmmaker is to tell the film story first, right? In its own world.
Mhm.
And so you can't change the story and you can't, force anything in unless the story needs it, right? Because then it's going to feel phony. It's going to feel like all this other stuff is like forced in it and it's not going to resonate well. But then at the same time, the art you're creating has a real grounded societal impact, right? So there's a conflict there that I think is so difficult for, filmmakers. And, this is the same. I mean, it's true for people that make video games. It's the same thing for people that write stories, just, like fiction.
Mhm.
Like that conflict is so real. How do you guys think we navigate that? You know what I mean? When you need to be truthful to the story you're telling, but at the same time, you need to make sure you're not causing harm.
I think part of that, just to sort of relate it to like where I was gonna try to go with this. So a bit
Sure.
of the video game stuff and a bit of the Jared Leto stuff. So
Yeah.
I think part of the issue is just that the lens in which like we sort of like approach or try to tell these kinds of stories tend to be told from a lens that's like not of the person who actually like has the perspective that you're like writing for. So like with Jared Leto when he I believe was in Dallas Buyers Club,
Right.
he portrays a trans character in that role, and like he goes on to like say like it was like very important that like the character came off as authentic and that like he was inspired by like young trans kids, and how he was like I think he was also method in that role as well.
Right.
Where
Yeah, he
was saying
was.
like he
Yep.
would go into the store and like even the director would say like I never met Jared Leto, I just met like his character. So like he said that, oh well, I experienced like people, he like experienced like he said that he experienced like an other kind of thing like that, and like I think that that's like I'll give credit where credit's due. Like it's good to like at least be like humbled in like those kind of situations, but like you sort of have the privilege to like step out of that. Like
you can
you get to
always
check
leave
out.
that. You can always leave.
Yeah.
There was a let me bring up, I think you didn't you send an article talking about that, or there was some, it was one
Yeah,
about,
I think I hyperlinked it. Yeah.
and you sent one about Bryan Cranston.
Yeah. So
playing in The Other Side.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen again. This was really interesting to me. Oh God, what is that song? Sorry about that. I'll have to cut that out. So Isaiah sent this article when we were brainstorming ideas for this episode, and so could you say what movie was this for, Isaiah?
Yeah, I think it was for The Upside, and it starred Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart, and like a lot of like people probably didn't get past seeing the trailer for it, and you just see like, well, Bryan Cranston is playing I believe a quadriplegic in the role. So a lot of the issue, and like I guess the question I wanted to raise in our discussion was when it comes to drawing the line on the question of portrayal, because a lot of the time it's always saying like, well, the issue of like, well, this person was best for the role, but then you run into a lot of things like, well, were they best for the role, or were they the big name that was available and you chose them because it's sort of easy to attach to it? So like at least with Bryan Cranston, I believe he said somewhere in that article where he goes on to say, and I believe this is Huffington Post, where he goes on to sort of say like, well, as actors we're asked to play other people, and if I as a straight older person and I'm wealthy and very fortunate, does that mean that I can't play a person who's not wealthy, and like does that mean that I can't play a homosexual? And like he goes on to sort of say like, we live in a world of criticism. If we're willing to get up and try something, we have to also be willing to take criticism. So so it's like not really sure like where the restrictions apply or where there's that line. So I think that it is interesting because like to a certain extent I get the argument of sort of like saying like only certain like people can play certain roles. Like if I'm a black person, like, well, you just play black roles, but then that becomes an issue of like, well, now you're sort of like putting people in a box where you're saying like, well, you're a black person, you can only play this role. You can't have a fan force stick with Michael B. Jordan playing as the Human Torch because of that. As great as that film was. But there like comes like a different sort of limiting of typecasting when like there's like a line of like inclusivity where you're like saying only people can play these roles, but then like also limiting them to like maybe only play those roles.
Because obviously like a person of color could only, if it's like an established character, you can adapt race, whatever, who cares? It doesn't, as long as that's worked into the narrative. But what I found so interesting about the article you sent is that this director who's disabled said, as a wheelchair user, I could never play Bryan Cranston, so why the hell could he play someone like me? And it kind of goes back to what Kaylee said, like, they can drop that, after. But there's all these, there's all this connotation and stuff associated with some of these roles that you can't necessarily get rid of as easily when you take out of it. You're an actor if you're just like a straight white guy.
I think the issue like inherently lies that there are so few roles available for disabled actors, for people of color, for black people, for indigenous people, so when you have the rare opportunity and the rare chance that there is one of those roles available and you give it to a straight white guy, I don't think it's the same as Bryan Cranston saying, I'm wealthy, I can't play a poor person. It's
that's not it. Yeah,
it's just oversimplifying and glossing over the fact. It makes me think of, sorry, Jonah.
No, dude, I'm just like so excited to talk about this. You finish.
It makes me think of M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar.
Oh God,
dude, stop. The only movie
I had to bring it in.
The only film I have ever walked out on, ever.
The only film I've ever walked out on was Grown Ups 2 because it was trash.
It
But
was trash.
I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love the cartoon,
Yeah.
but I've never seen Shyamalan's version.
Don't.
But I mean, there's such a rare opportunity to cast Indigenous and Inuit actors.
Yeah.
That
The
could have
tribe.
been this huge thing, and then you just give it to a white cast.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So and that's why I mean the original creators left Avatar's or Netflix's attempt to make the new live action.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, they said that they wanted the ability to cast white actors, and the creator said there should be absolutely no white people in the entire thing.
Wow.
They also wanted to make it a darker, more mature,
like gritty.
This isn't your kid's Avatar.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
it's
the
more
Snyder cut.
It's the Riverdale Avatar.
It's the Riverdale Avatar.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but then you get into like another conversation where it's like, well, are we cool with diversity for the sake of diversity then? You know what I mean? Because that for me is my girlfriend's a person of color, so we watch a lot of these Netflix originals because we both hate them. We hate every Netflix original, and one of the things that always pisses her off.
They're so fun to watch.
They are fun to watch because they're trash. But you watch them, and so and she's told me, and we talk about this, where it seems like stuff is just thrown in. Like characters of color are thrown in, just to be there.
A lot of times it's like the token black friend.
A token black friend.
You can really point him out in like
or
the crowd,
or there's like a gay character and his entire personality is just that he's gay and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
He cannot be an actual human being outside of that. His identity, sexual identity is everything. But it's
they're superficial changes. Like
it's so superficial.
It's like they're just saying like, look, we're woke. We have this in there.
Right, exactly.
It's like when Disney was like, yeah, LeFou in Beauty and the Beast is going to be gay,
Yeah.
And then it was like all of like 2 seconds where he was dancing with a man.
Depending on your country.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If it's enough that you can easily cut it out, then it's not enough.
Right.
Like in Star Wars with the lesbian kiss and the
right at the end, it was like a 2-second thing.
Yeah. The guy with hugging the slug had a longer cut time than the two women kissing.
Jesus. Who was the guy with the slug? Was that the
He
milk?
was like, what?
Was that the milk when Luke Skywalker drank the milk?
No, it's a big slug, and he was celebrating. He was super excited.
Yes, I remember the celebrating big slug.
Yes. Yeah.
It's an essential beloved Star Wars character.
Yeah,
that's my favorite character. Him and Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar's a good guy.
And like I had the experience of in my previous publication I wanted to like sort of write something about the live action that Scarlett Johansson starred in.
Right. So could you give us for people that don't know like Ghost of the Shell is and then what that film was, you want to give some background on that?
Yeah, so Ghost in the Shell is pretty much it is a cyberpunk kind of future anime. There's like 90s like movie that's sort of like pretty prolific in the anime community. It's like beautiful animation and beloved story. So pretty much the sort of crux of the plot of it is that there are these like sort of like I guess anti-terrorist squad that are like these people who have like all these like mechanical augmentations.
Right.
And they sort of like deal with the like just different acts of terror that is involved with like cybercrime. And the main character is Motoko Kusanagi, and she's called the Major, and like she leads the squad. Right. So the sort of like the main issue that came out of the film was that in the casting they were like, well, we're just gonna throw Scarlett Johansson in there. She's one of those Avengers ladies, so just throw her in there. So a lot of people, especially within the Asian community, weren't really hot on the idea that you would cast someone whose last name is Johansson as an Asian character as Kusanagi. That might be a little bit of a slight there. So like when I went to go see it to like write the review, kind of like opinion piece about it, I was the only person in the theater.
Were you really?
The people running the theater were like, oh, that movie was supposed to start 20 minutes ago. Yeah, we'll start. As like, oh, this is great. This is a great sort of like prelude to how this is all going to go down. Yeah. So like a lot of the issues with that was that like people were saying like, well, you sort of took the role, like Scarlett Johansson sort of took the role away from like other Asian actresses who could have played the role. Like people were bringing up like Constance Wu or
I love Constance Wu.
Yeah, she's great.
Or Rinko Kikuchi.
Right.
And
so there are other
like
options.
Yeah, and so like a lot of the things that she sort of said coming out of that was like, oh, diversity is like very important, and like I would like never want to play or feel like I was playing a character that was offensive, and that certainly if there was like enormous pressure of that and like the weight of like a big property on her shoulders, I'm like, well, that wasn't really like acknowledging or like apologizing for like the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
And like even the director was like, well, yeah, she was like really great for the role and like stands by the decision to like cast her in it. And I believe like Constance Wu tweeted out like, and I have like all the stuff down here. Tweeted out, it's like way to reduce race to mere physical appearance as opposed to say culture. So social experience, identity, and history.
That's important. That's my thing. That whenever, and I'll be honest, when I started like hearing about these discussions, stuff like that, I did not think about that because I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. When I first started hearing about I think it was the Michael B. Jordan thing in like Fantastic Four. And I wasn't upset about it or anything, but I was just like, okay, well, they just, now he's a black character. I was like, wait a minute, there's an entire experience and, sort of mores and folkways and all of these things that go with that. And I think some people, forget that when they, and people are, this comes to like the bigger thing of fandom, right? When you get into these like really, really loved properties. I mean, that's one thing that I think a lot of people sort of lose track of is that there's more than, just the physical manifestation of it. There's a whole, series of things that need to be worked into the narrative. That's the change you're going to make, right?
Like the movie tried to like bend over backwards to like explain within the plot of its own movie why they casted her. Like, oh, well, you see, yeah, they're like spoilers for the movie that came out that I don't think anyone really cares about. But like they're like, oh, well, the evil corporation is like some like English corporation. It's like, yeah, this Asian person that we actually casted to be the character died in this incident, but we put her Asian brain inside of this white body, and that's the thing. So I'm like,
are you serious?
Her Asian brain inside of this white body.
And like the weird like tonal
like,
dissonance
get that
of,
away
like,
from me.
So like the tonal dissonance of like watching like the movie was just like I'm already aware of like the things going on with it, but then the movie's like, oh, we're gonna acknowledge it too and like sort of have our cake and like explain it too.
So how did they get away with this?
Dude, that is like, gross.
So I was like, I don't know.
That's like repulsive.
Yeah, because it was pretty much like a 1-to-1 like recreation of like the animated movie for it. So like there weren't like a lot of like, if they were going to be creative in some way, I would rather it not be that with like an explanation of that. So
yeah,
I think what people miss, what Scarlett Johansson misses and everything, and the people who cast her, is that it's not just that you're casting a white woman in an Asian woman's role, and it's not just that you're giving her that part. It's that you're also taking that part away from other people.
Right.
So it's not like a victimless crime. Piracy is not a victimless crime, but the thing that says like before all your DVDs. But it's not just like an innocent mistake or an innocent choice. It's actively harming other people when you do that.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, this is something that I've had to think about a lot in preparation for this. So this year at Columbia in my major, this is like the thesis year. So I'm shooting the two biggest films they do at the school, like a directing 3 film and then a practical film. And the directing 3 film, which I wrote, has the main character is disabled. He's in a wheelchair. And he's like a Vietnam veteran. So he's an older guy too, which is going to be great for shooting during COVID. But that's like something that I've had to, start thinking about is, what are the, what does it mean if I do or don't cast, somebody from that community for it? But I feel like more so these issues come into play when like a big name actor is casted, just to generate revenue and hype and things like that. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. There's like even a thing where I guess shifting gears slightly to like video games. So Last of Us 2 came out, I believe, earlier this year, and there was a bit of a controversy about a trans character that was being portrayed in the role, and like with like all the leaks and stuff that was going on with the game, people assumed this masculine woman was the trans character, like because of the leaks, and like it wasn't that at all. There's like, just this kid, it was the trans character, but like even like in playing the game, there was like some sort of pointed criticism about that as well. So like in some points, Naughty Dog, the studio that's behind Last of Us, they do a lot of good strides to like make sure that they're like at least representing people well. Like they actually casted a trans actor to portray the role. I believe
nice.
Ian Alexander to play the role as Lev in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but like there's like still some bits, like some I guess some growing pains when it comes to, I guess, writing for these kinds of things, because a lot of the sort of weird, like I guess potholes of like trying to write these kinds of stories, that like how to get the story across, like, well, we're writing a trans character, and like a lot of that is like, well, if we're gonna do the trans experience, like a lot of the weird like footholds to like writing for that is like, well, we have to show that through like the more negative sides of it, like the negative nuances of it. So like things like dead naming and things like that are like present within the game, so people are like, well, we can get that the character is trans. We don't need to have that to be the explanation for it.
Right.
So I think those are still.
I think one of the biggest steps in fixing that is that you need to then have trans people in your writer's room. You know.
Yeah. Right.
As opposed, like, you can't have. I feel you can't authentically have a trans character and have it written by a cis person. You know, or at least collaborate with other people. Yeah, exactly. Because there's no possible way. Same with like a straight person writing a gay character, or a white person writing a black movie. You know, there's no true way that you can authentically live that the way that someone who continually goes through that can.
Right. And then so then what's the verdict on this then? I mean, does it come down to a point where only people in those communities should be able to play those roles or write that content? Or is it like, just do your homework, you know what I mean, and consult with people?
I believe a lot of it is like, just do your homework. I'm like, as long as there's like I don't think that you should like, again, I'm like not for like limiting people to like whatever roles that they have, but there has to be like a conversation of like, well, certain people who are in Hollywood tend to get like certain roles because they're sort of like, it's sort of like the thing of like, where if you see like these if you see like Scarlett Johansson or like Jared Leto playing these roles and you don't have a problem with it, part of the thing is like, well, your world might be, well, you are surrounded by sort of like cis white people, and you don't really see that as like an issue because that's just sort of the world that you live in. So it's not like a thing that sort of like light bulbs as like, maybe there's something wrong with this. So I think that there has to be an acknowledgement of where there might be some not like limited within just yourself, on like where there might be some limitations on like how you're trying to represent or like tell this kind of story with like who's portraying it, but also like include the conversation with other people who are in the community, not just as consultants, but like maybe as like key people within the process of writing.
Have an open dialogue, you know. I think you also have to consider what your lasting impact of the film is going to be, you know, as opposed to just like while you're making it and while you're writing it. Because, you know, when we watch people on screens, you know, and we see people that look like us, we see ourselves in them, you know. So if you're written off as a side character, or the gay best friend, or, you know, the token black friend, you know, a lot of times that's going to, especially with children, you know, that's how you're going to see yourself. So you have to think of film, I think, not as just like, oh, it's just movies, you know, but it influences our culture so much.
Yeah, that's true. What do you guys think about, I mean, because that, what you just said, Kaylee, kind of brings up like another conversation I've thought about a lot, which is like, you know, what about older films that have made that are so clearly, you know, problematic and present a lot of issues today, but are like, you know, good films and well-loved films? Do you guys think that films can be good even if, you know, those sort of issues and representation and, you know, sort of those related things?
That's how I feel every time I watch Peter Pan is one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel every time I just feel so conflicted every time I watch it.
Right.
Because there's some really racist themes in it, you know, with the Native Americans. And so like they have a whole song about what makes the red man red, you know. And I understand that it came out in the 50s, but I feel like uncomfortable watching it, but also I love Peter Pan.
It's like a wonderful,
you know?
movie at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So like it's very, that's one of the things that I'm like unsure about, you know.
Yeah. What do you think?
I also feel that I would think I would feel differently if I was in one of those communities that were being misrepresented. You know, it's very easy for me as a white girl to just watch that and be like, oh, well, just ignore that scene, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Isaiah, sort of, what do you think about this?
So like completely tonal shift there. Like instead of Peter Pan, like with me, like I like really like the Scarface movie. Like I grew up watching that as a
Yeah.
kid. I know I shouldn't have, but I
No,
was
it's
like,
a
it's
great.
just one of those things.
Me
It's one
too,
of those
man.
things that
My
sits
dad
by
showed
that
me
in
that
Grand
when I
Theft
was a kid.
Auto.
Yeah,
It's like,
dude.
oh, it's a great film. Like, yeah, we'll watch it annually. So like, it's just like one of those things where, like, you look back at it now and you're just like, oh,
Right.
sort of like weird kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah.
I had like a buddy like try to recommend me like watching I think it was House of Cards. And like maybe I'll get into it. And then like the stuff came out of like I'm saying, like, I don't need to get into it
Yeah.
now. So
Oh.
there's like certain things like that where it's like I believe like I might have wrote like article about that in my previous publication about like just sort of like you can like still like I feel like it's okay to still like part of it's like if you watch it it sort of feels like it's like you're supporting whatever like thing is connected to it. I feel like there like is a way to separate like art from artists or like those kinds of issues. But I feel like you need to at least acknowledge that like there is a problem with this. You can still like enjoy it, but like don't be like one-to-one on it. And like I even liked the movie like Tropic Thunder, even though like Robert Downey Jr. got like a lot of flack for like that. But I'm like, it's less of a I feel like it's less of a joke about black people, but it's more of a joke of like how white people think black people act. So there's like a weird like through line between like how like you can sort of navigate that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I haven't thought about Tropic Thunder in so long, dude. I only seen that movie once. This is off topic, but now that you're talking about seeing Scarface as a kid, did you guys also see like really really mature films? Like, did your dad show you really really mature films when you were a kid?
Have you guys heard of the movie Don't Mess with the Zohan?
No.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Adam Sandler movie. It's on Netflix, but oh my God, my parents put it on the TV when I was like 8 years old because they love Adam Sandler, and then they just went to the kitchen, so they weren't watching it. But like in the first like in the first like 5 minutes, he's like butt ass naked. Can we swear?
We're already there.
Yeah, we're already there. Yeah, no F-bombs, no F-bombs, no F-bombs.
Got it. But he's bare naked and everything, and then like 30 minutes in, there's a scene where he's like a hairdresser, and this old woman he's shampooing her hair, and he's like gyrating against her ear and everything, and like it was just horrible. And I remember my brothers and I watching it like, what the hell?
What is happening?
Right? And then like 20 minutes were left and he was doing something super bizarre. My mom finally came in and she's like, what are you guys watching? And we were like,
that's so funny.
You put this on the TV? Did you not see it was rated R?
You did this. That's funny. When my dad is like notorious for doing that. When I was a kid, he showed me The Clockwork Orange, and that one kind of got me. I'm not gonna lie. So I saw a lot of that stuff when I was really really young.
When I was like 5, my dad took me to see. My dad took me to see the Spider-Man movies in the theaters.
Yeah.
Which like aren't that bad, but I was 5, so I had nightmares about Doc Ock for the longest time. I could see him like coming out of my closet. Oh my God.
That's pretty funny. That's good stuff.
I mean, I love Spider-Man now, but.
So I'm glad that you overcome that.
Yeah. My family sort of has the tradition of like every Thanksgiving because AMC decides to put it on its programming. Like every Thanksgiving, we gotta watch the Godfather trilogy. We might skip 3 this year, but we'll watch the Godfather. So like, I sort of have that in my head of like, I sort of grew up with that. But like as a kid, like I hated scary movies. But like the scariest thing I think I ever saw as a kid was like part of the like one scene in The Mummy where like the Beatles like show up.
Yeah, dude. I saw that too when I was a kid.
Still hates that. But
I saw that too when I was a kid.
Yeah, that part like still gets to me. But
Is it the Tom Cruise movie?
Oh no, not the bad one. No, the old one. The
old
Brendan
school.
Fraser.
Brendan
America's
Fraser.
like just cherry pie, that boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. It's just a lot of like things that like sort of like I think the only thing that I saw like where I definitely should not have seen it, I think my mom like took me out to go see a movie, and I think it was Superbad actually.
Oh, banger.
And I was like, I think I was in like grade school, so I had no idea. I was like, that was funny from the trailers. Like walked in, like I think I was less like uncomfortable seeing it. Like if it were just me one-on-one, was like, my mom's here, man. We're going through all this stuff. This is weird. So
it's a little odd.
I can appreciate the movie now as an adult, but like back then just be like, oh, okay, I don't really get like the nuance of like the theme, so I'll take it more like bold face, I guess.
Yeah, I'm always
kind of reality of watching it.
I'm always so surprised when I talk to my friends and I find out like their parents don't let them watch SpongeBob, because apparently that's like a common thing.
I've heard people that are like that.
I don't understand.
That's crazy to me.
If I have kids, they are watching SpongeBob. Period.
that anti-capitalist SpongeBob movie,
No.
Comrade SpongeBob.
Dude, I remember I went to elementary school with this guy named Aiden, who was like he was the smartest kid in like the school. And so I hung out with him once, and I was like, dude, let's watch SpongeBob, because that's what homies do. And he said, no, I can't. My parents wouldn't let me. And I just kind of looked at him. I was like, one, your parents aren't here, so don't be a narc, okay? And two, why not? And he was like, they say the S word. I'm like, what S word? They don't say SHIT. He was like, no, they say stupid. I was like, come on, bro.
I thought you were gonna do the dolphin sound. Like, oh my God, they say that?
Yo, if I was smarter, that would be kind of funny. But maybe that would be in the teaser. Who knows? But yeah, dude, I don't know. Oh my God, that totally will be in the teaser. That always caught me off guard. I hated that. I never talked to Aiden again after that, actually. That broke our relationship.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I take that seriously. I take SpongeBob very, very seriously. Cool. You guys have anything else?
Cool.
What, dude? I don't know. You guys want to talk about something else?
I like how you guys both have like gaming headsets, and I have my.
Oh yeah, I'm a hashtag gamer boy.
Yes, I am as well. I'm very good at Mario Kart.
Like, I got that ninja mentality. Like, I just can't lose, and if I lose and I don't take the game seriously, it's not like.
What do you think about?
Am I really a gamer?
What do you think about Ninja refusing to stream with women, Isaiah?
Oh man, like as a that's level-headed, you know. Like he's got a wife, you know. He can't be playing games with women.
Did you hear about this, Kaylee?
People will say things.
Do you know about this?
I have heard of Ninja though. What about him?
He refuses to stream with women because he has a wife and he doesn't want like anything. Right, Isaiah?
That's the most Mike Pence answer.
I was gonna say that sounds like Mike Pence saying
I have
that
a mother. I can't be playing video games with women.
No, isn't that what he said though? Isn't that like his
defense?
Yeah. That's
Wait,
that's just so bizarre. That's
like dress code,
ludicrous.
Dude. You can't show your shoulders.
Oh my God!
You can't show your shoulders on Culture Chronversations. Yeah.
I'll do the rest of it like this.
Nice, dude. That's funny.
We can swear, but don't you dare do that.
Yeah, don't you dare show your shoulders. All right, guys. I think we're just about actually at time for this episode. I want to say thank you two for joining me. That was super fun. That went by so quick.
I know.
Really
that was like the fastest ever gone by. I don't know if that's because I dislike everybody else that's been on the podcast more than you guys.
Probably.
Or maybe I just love this conversation. But either way, thank you again, guys, for coming on. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.